tonight on First at 9 this Saturday the 4th of October 2025. Positive trajectory. Sri Lanka's economy depicts a post-crisis rebound with 5% economic growth in 2024, notes the IMF. Expresses satisfaction over the progress of Sri Lanka's comprehensive reform program. Firm rejection. Government denies reports claiming a threefold increase in presidential expenditure. Education reforms. Government looking into rectifying existing issues within the education system, says the Prime Minister. Affirms that the education sector should prioritize molding students to take the lead in a complex society. Security concerns. Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa's security compromised, claims the ex-president's spokesperson. Urgent meeting with senior security officials planned to request reinstatement of returned vehicles.
Kalin baby soap rupial 90කට. Kalin baby podi හැමෝටමයි.
This is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to Derana First at 9, Sri Lanka's most trusted news source. I'm Tatya Aranaika, joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. We begin with your top story. The International Monetary Fund says Sri Lanka's economy depicted a post-crisis rebound with 5% economic growth in 2024. During a press briefing, IMF spokesperson Julie Kozak asserted that Sri Lanka's comprehensive reform program continues to achieve impressive progress, adding that overall program performance is perceived to be strong.
Just stepping back to remind everyone that on July 1st, our executive board completed the fourth review under the EFF arrangement with Sri Lanka. And this provided Sri Lanka with $350 million to support its economic policies and reforms. And it also brought total financial support from the IMF to $1.74 billion US. What I can add is that Sri Lanka's comprehensive reform program has continued to achieve impressive progress. Inflation remains low, revenue collection from the government side is improving, and international reserves continue to be accumulated. There has been a post-crisis rebound in growth to 5% in 2024, which is a remarkable achievement. The revenue to GDP ratio in the budget improved to 13.5% of GDP from 8.2% in 2022, which is also a significant increase, although still work to be done. The debt restructuring process is nearly complete. Program performance overall is generally very strong, and the government remains committed to the program's objectives. And what I can say with respect to the timing of the next review is that we do have a mission on the ground now in Sri Lanka to conduct the fifth review of the EFF. Given that the team is now currently in discussions with the authorities, I won't say more other than to say that, of course, the team will communicate at the end of the mission.
ඔයාගේ හීන ලන්තයට අපිත් එක්ක යන්න අදම සනස ලයිෆ් එක ඉන්ෂුවර් වෙන්න.
Deputy Minister of Economic Development Professor Anil Jayantha dismisses media reports claiming a threefold increase in presidential expenditure for 2026 compared to 2025, calling them misleading and technically flawed. Speaking to the media, the Deputy Minister noted that the 2026 presidential expenditure head also includes funds allocated for development projects.
2026 වර්ෂයේ සඳහා විසර්ජන පනත් කෙටුම් පත පසුගියදා පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට ඉදිරිපත් කළා.
The appropriation bill for 2026 was recently presented to Parliament. The relevant ministries provided information under various expenditure heads. Some of that information has been singled out and being spread as misleading news. These comparisons are misleading. Some people say there is a threefold increase in the 2026 presidential expenditure head compared to 2025. The basis for that calculation is incorrect. In 2025, when the appropriation bill was presented, 2.9 billion rupees was mentioned here. The 2.9 billion figure for 2025 does not include the expenses including in the budget proposal. That is what we presented as a draft. Subsequently, two additional allocations by the Presidential Secretariat were included under the President's expenditure head, including 5.05 billion rupees for the Clean Sri Lanka project and 1 billion rupees for research and development commercialization. Therefore, correct allocation for 2025 is 9 billion rupees. The 11.36 37 billion mentioned in the appropriation bill 2026 included funds allocated for Clean Sri Lanka project as well as research. Therefore, the initial comparison was technically incorrect. That is how misleading media report was created.
මේ වැරද්ද නිසා තමයි නොම ගැන ප්‍රවෘත්තිය හදලා තියෙන්නේ.
Prime Minister Dr. Haruni Amarasuriya highlights that the new education reforms aim to integrate vocational education into the mainstream system, calling it a key initiative in curriculum transformation. Speaking at an awareness program on the new education reforms in Matale today, the Premier stresses that education is no longer just about providing knowledge, but about shaping children who can live responsibly, lead and navigate a complex society.
An awareness program on the new education reforms was held for school principals at Matale District Secretariat today under the patronage of Prime Minister Dr. Haruni Amarasuriya.
මේක හුදෙක් විෂය මාලාවක් සංශෝධනය කරන දෙයක් නෙවෙයි.
This is not just about reforming the school curriculum. Issues within the education system have been identified for some time. While these issues have been correctly recognized, this is a significant attempt to address them. All children sit for the same competitive examination and must enter higher studies through this competitive education system. Education is no longer just a place to provide knowledge. We must create children who can live, take responsibilities and lead in a complex society. Therefore, we must ask ourselves whether our education system provides this foundation. We must also consider whether we intend to continue with the current model of education. This is not merely about changing the curriculum within a short period. We are planning to introduce vocational education into the current system. I believe this stands out as a key intervention in the ongoing curriculum transformation. We will plan until it reaches the highest level and accordingly funds will be allocated from the budget over the next 5 years.
අපි අයවැය තුල මුදල් වෙන් කරන්නෙත් අපි සැලසුම් කරන්නේ.
හොඳම ෆෝන් එකක් ගන්න. ළඟම අපාන්ස් එකට යන්න.
The World Education Fair 2025's entrance free. Register now.
Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa claims that the government is attempting to introduce reforms which will bring about destruction of the education system after securing power by misleading the public. Addressing a gathering, the opposition leader stressed that history should be made a core subject in the school curriculum. Another iteration of the opposition leader's mobile service program was held in the Kalavavi electorate in Anuradhapura under the patronage of opposition leader Sajith Premadasa.
The government is presenting proposals to destroy the education sector after fooling and misleading the whole country. We are of the view that the education system should be changed. The current education system, which prioritizes memorization, must be transformed into one that technologically advanced. We are bound to strengthen children through subjects such as artificial intelligence, robotics, computer science and information technology. English language knowledge should also be improved. However, we cannot forget our identity. History must be made a core subject while developing the education sector, and we are ready to introduce this reform.
Former President Ranil Wickremesinghe warns that countries ignoring artificial intelligence risk being left behind. He made this comment while attending a motor racing exhibition in Colombo today. Attending the same event, leader of the Sarvajanabalaya parliamentarian Dilip Jayavira emphasized that embracing modern technology and global trends can help Sri Lanka reposition itself competitively.
The Grid X exhibition organized to promote motor racing was held in Colombo today. Former President Ranil Wickremesinghe and Chairman of the Aralia Group Dudley Sirisena attended the event as chief guests. Leader of the Sarvajanabalaya parliamentarian Dilip Jayavira was the guest of honor.
When it comes to dealing with the modern world and so-called developed world, things like this will definitely change that attitude, and we'll push ourselves into things that the rest of the world is doing and the rest of the world is involved in. Thereby, we can reposition our nation at a level. We can compete in anything that we get into. Sri Lanka, as people, our Sri Lankans have a massive potential which is just to be unleashed, and we need only this kind of small support, this power to be unleashed. So with that, I think we can power the nation with the technology, the science behind motorsports and the motorsports as an industry. I hope that we can all get together to push along with other things. Sri Lanka tourism, Sri Lanka youth, not just the Gen Z, the youth like us also. We all get extra energy. So, and change the perception of our beautiful motherland.
I have read about the steam motorsports. So I come here to encourage all of you, then to say I am with you when you are promoting this game. My experience, of course, is very limited in this field. In our time in the mid-60s, you are lucky if you had a bicycle. Now you referred to need for engineering skills. I think this is needed so that we really exploit what we have. In the old days, engineering skills were in our part of the world. You have steam motor racers and then you apply AI to it. You will have to find a new one for Jogina to see how this game comes. But finally the world is going into AI, and countries that don't get involved in AI will have to be left behind. So we have to promote it officially in our education system and unofficially through organizations like this.
Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa's spokesperson Manoj Gamage claims that the relinquishing of the bulletproof vehicle and the vehicle used by his security personnel has severely compromised the former president's safety. Speaking to the media, Gamage noted that discussions are being planned with senior security officials soon to request the reinstatement of the returned vehicles.
Following the recent enactment of the President's Entitlements Repeal Act, former President Mahinda Rajapaksa vacated his official residence in Vijayarama, Colombo. However, the government has yet to formally reclaim the possession of the residence. The Presidential Secretariat has repeatedly requested that the former President's personal belongings to be cleared from the premises. However, the former President has stated that he will only proceed with their removal after conducting a thorough inspection to separate his own belongings from government property. According to his spokesperson Manoj Gamage, former President Rajapaksa had expressed concern that removing his belongings prematurely could lead to allegations of misappropriating government assets.
On September 24, the Secretary to the President informed that under the new provisions of the newly enacted President's Entitlements Repeal Act, the 5th Executive President Mahinda Rajapaksa is obligated to return the official residence and the government vehicles allocated to him. Accordingly, as of yesterday, we have returned both the bulletproof vehicle allocated to the former President and the vehicle designated for his security detail. This development has significantly compromised the personal safety of former President Mahinda Rajapaksa. It is well known that the bulletproof vehicle was originally provided in response to credible threats against his life following the conclusion of the country's 3-decade-long civil conflict. Furthermore, his security personnel are now left without a vehicle and legally they cannot travel in private vehicles while armed. This has raised serious and immediate concerns regarding the former president's security arrangements. Given the current circumstances, we are seeking an urgent meeting with the Inspector General of Police, the Secretary to the Ministry of Defence and other senior defence officials to request the reinstatement of the returned vehicles to ensure the safety and security of former President Rajapaksa.
And with that, here's a look at some thoughts shared in the political arena today.
Children who are brought up without proper guidance grow up to misuse public wealth. They build castles and use luxurious vehicles, all of which were paid for by the public. That is their mentality. Former presidents were expecting to live luxurious lifestyles with the people's money. These are the results of not being taught the correct morals at a young age. If the government thinks that they can continue to govern the country by repressing the opposition, then they are mistaken. We will not allow that and it will never happen. So the government should not attempt to do that. If they resolve people's concerns, there is no need to repress the opposition. The government aims to dismantle the entire system. They are not targeting a single party. Certain OICs and police officers have asserted before court that they were forced to present fabricated evidence. Respectable police officers who do not bend to such threats should be protected. We are reinstating the justice that was taken away from the country a long time ago. Some opposition members panic and respond to statements made by the police spokesperson at the daily media briefing. That is the problem. We are not targeting any individual, nor do we seek political revenge. But the opposition is calling it political revenge. Before apprehending suspects, they point fingers at the SLPP. However, suspects who were apprehended turned out to be JVP affiliates. We urge the police to conduct impartial investigations into the murder of Tajuddin and the recent seizures of narcotics. If not, media spectacles such as this would only deliver injustice.
ඉතාම බරපතල අයුක්තියක් අසාධාරණයක් සිදුවීම තමයි සිද්ධ වෙන්නේ.
There was a time when Vimal Veeravansha's statements were taken seriously. However, now he is not to be taken seriously. When drug traffickers and organized criminals connected with the opposition are being apprehended, the opposition is attempting to portray that they are affiliated with the government to conceal their own connections. During elections, anyone can take part in any political meeting. Just because someone attended a meeting, it does not mean they supported us.
TV Derana, the pioneer in transforming the Sri Lanka's traditional media landscape under the theme Conserve Our Own and Embrace the New, celebrates its 20th anniversary this year. To commemorate the 20th anniversary, religious programs of all religions are being held, commencing last night with an overnight Pirit chanting ceremony. Following the Pirit chanting, an alms-giving ceremony was held this morning.
An overnight Pirit chanting ceremony organised in commemoration of the 20th anniversary of TV Derana was held last night at the Derana headquarters. Buddhist clergy from the Sri Lanka Vidyalaya Mahapirivena in Maradana invoked blessings for the anniversary. The ceremony was attended by the senior administration and staff of the Derana Media Network and well-wishers.
This institution has largely contributed to the social well-being of the country, especially in strengthening our religious and cultural values as well as empowering our future generations with those values. May the Noble Triple Gems bless the Derana network to further strengthen and empower our society.
Following the overnight Pirit chanting ceremony, alms were offered to the monks this morning. The chief incumbent of the Kotte Sri Kalyani Samagri Dharma Mahasangha Sabha, Agga Maha Pandita, Most Venerable Dr. Ittapana Sri Dharmalankara Thera, the Deputy Chief Prelates, Chief Judicial Sanganayaka Theras, and the registrars of the three Buddhist sects also attended the ceremony. Chief incumbents of a number of temples across the country and many other members of the Buddhist clergy who have invoked blessings on Derana throughout the past 20 years were in attendance. Founder of the Derana Media Network, Member of Parliament, Entrepreneur Dilip Jayveera, the Board of Directors, Joint Managing Director Waruni Amunugama, Deputy Chairman Laksiri Wickremage, Executive Director Madhava Madawala, the senior administration and staff joined to offer alms to the Buddhist clergy.
Many programs produced by the Derana Media Network contribute to the societal progress. Derana Media Network holds a special position among all other media networks in the country. Conserve our own and embrace the new. The motto itself holds a deep meaning. Conserving our own means embracing our civility. The Derana Media Network always prioritizes Sri Lankan values and protects them. Derana also produces programs that are up to date with the progressive vision. It is crucial to support talent and entrepreneurship. Derana completes its role in this regard. Derana has reached the pinnacle of media guided by entrepreneur Dilip Jayaveera's visionary leadership. The life of a communicator is short-lived if it is incapable of empathizing with the community. Derana has surpassed all private media channels. Derana has nurtured many communicators and presenters who empowered with empathy. Derana has also publicized the concept of entrepreneurship to the grassroots of society. All of these members of the Buddhist clergy are gathered here to bless the Derana Media Network in its future endeavors.
With that, here's a look at more local news across the island in brief.
The brother-in-law of notorious criminal figure Bako Saman has been arrested in Biagama. Police said the suspect was arrested while in possession of 555 grams of heroin, a pistol and a magazine. Meanwhile, CCTV footage from the Vidiyawata intersection in Udugampala Gampaha captured a lorry carrying iron ore crashing into a motor vehicle and a three-wheeler travelling ahead of it. A 15-year-old student who was on the road at the time was tragically killed in the accident. In other local news, a woman who abandoned her one-month-old baby in front of residence belonging to a retired family health worker in Ipalogama has been arrested by Mahava police. The suspect was presented before the judicial medical officer and subsequently produced at the Nikavarati Magistrates Court today. Although the court granted bail under two sureties of 200,000 rupees each, the suspect was remanded as she was unable to fulfill the bail conditions.
The United States Navy destroyer USS Fitzgerald arrived at the port of Colombo yesterday. The Sri Lanka Navy officially welcomed the visiting ship in accordance with naval traditions. The 154-meter-long destroyer is commanded by Commander Paul Richardson. The ship is scheduled to depart the island once it has fulfilled its necessary resupply requirements. Welcome back to First at 9. Now taking you to business news, the World Bank has stressed the urgent need for energy sector reforms in Sri Lanka as well as developments in the ports and logistics sector, noting them as critical factors driving national growth. This was expressed when a World Bank team led by country manager Georg Sargsyan held a consultation meeting with the Parliamentary Committee on Public Finance and a subsequent combined consultation session with the Committees on Public Enterprises, Public Accounts and Ways and Means. The World Bank delegation underscored the need for right-sizing the public sector and improving overall productivity while highlighting the importance of establishing efficiently run public-private partnerships as an alternative to full privatization. Discussions also focused on revenue collection improvement, job creation, poverty eradication and enhancing women's participation in the economy. Electric vehicle sales in the United Kingdom hit a record high last month. Sales of pure battery electric vehicles grew by almost a third to 72,779 in September, according to the Society of Motor Manufacturers, while sales of plug-in hybrid cars grew even faster. The SMMT said sales were driven by car makers offering discounts, a larger choice of models and the introduction of the government's grant scheme. The SMMT added that zero-emission vehicles accounted for more than 1 in 5 new cars registered so far in 2025. Welcome back. Now taking you to international news, Hamas has accepted parts of US President Trump's ceasefire plan for Gaza, but indicates that some aspects require further negotiation. Trump responded by urging Israel to immediately cease bombing Gaza, suggesting that Hamas was ready for peace.
Hamas has said it accepts several parts of US President Donald Trump's plan for a ceasefire in Israel's nearly 2-year war on Gaza, but that some elements require further negotiations. Trump responded early today by telling Israel to immediately stop bombing in Gaza, adding that Hamas was ready for a lasting peace. Israel says it is preparing to implement the first stage of Trump's plan to end the war in Gaza. Israel media reported that the government has instructed the military to reduce offensive activity in Gaza. However, Palestinian health authorities said at least 7 people were killed across Gaza since dawn, including 2 children, in an Israeli drone attack on a tent in Al-Mawasi in the south of the enclave. With that, at least 67,074 people have been killed and 169,430 people wounded in Israel's assault on Gaza since October 2023.
U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth claims American forces have killed 4 people in an attack on a suspected drug smuggling vessel off the coast of Venezuela. It is the latest in several recent deadly strikes that the U.S. has carried out on boats in international waters, which it says are involved in narco-trafficking. Hegseth claimed the vessel was transporting substantial amounts of narcotics headed to America to poison American people. There was no immediate response from Venezuela, but President Nicolas Maduro has previously condemned the strikes and said his country will defend itself against U.S. aggression. Afghanistan's Taliban foreign minister will visit India this month after the UN Security Council Committee temporarily lifted a travel ban. Amir Khan will become the first senior Taliban leader to visit India since they returned to power in 2021 following the withdrawal of the US military. The minister would go to India after the Moscow summit on October 7th, which includes representatives from China, India, Iran and Central Asian nations. The UN Security Council Committee granted an exemption to the travel ban on Muttaqi, who is under US sanctions, to allow him to visit New Delhi between October 9 and 16. India's point person on Afghanistan, Anand Prakash, visited Kabul in April to discuss political trade relations. That's all for tonight from Fest at 9. Thank you for joining. Have a great night.